welcome to another episode of Mental Odyssey. My name is Sarah, and today I am joined again by a very special guest, my sweet, sweet husband.
That's me.
Hello, dearie.
Hello, dearie.
On another episode. Thanks for
2 in a
being
row.
here. Hey. Yeah, so this episode is going to be a follow-up to our last one last week, because I've had some realizations since then.
Yeah,
So.
you want to tell us what those realizations are?
Why'd you get so close to the mic?
Because I'm excited. We're recording
I am too,
this.
actually. Yes, I would love to share. So, after we recorded the last podcast, I was on the phone with the Bones, and I think that me and him are having like a similar headspace right now, feeling similar feelings. And so it's been really nice to have somebody else to bounce shit off of. And anyway, I was painting outside. We were on the phone. We were talking about this. And he said something that kind of hit more than what you said last time on the podcast, which is that it is what it is until it can be something else, which is a little bit easier for me to accept than just it is what it is, right? Because I can still keep that little bit of hope, but it doesn't have to be active hope. It doesn't have to have actions in my day-to-day life to hold up that hope, which was a nice step forward. But something that I've realized in the last week since we recorded this last episode is that I was operating. I mean, I acknowledged it in the last episode, but I've been operating out of a younger headspace. Being in this house, I lived here 5 years ago. So it's been 5 years of growth. I was 21 when I left.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost 27.
Well, and you legally contributed to the purchase of this house.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much.
You had claimable equity in the purchase of this house.
Right. And it was bought for another relationship with another person. And there's been a lot of different people living here. I automatically go back to the ages that I've been when I've lived here before. And I didn't realize that until after I went over to Biba's house and was watching her 3-year-old. And it made me feel like an adult to be there, to be contributing to a child's upbringing, Mm-hmm. It put me into the headspace because I haven't had that experience here before, So it helped me be put back into a more adult headspace. And from that headspace, it was actually on the drive home from her house, because it's an hour and 10 minutes.
Got lots of thinking time.
Lots of thinking to do. And it was your personal day, so I couldn't just call and talk. So it was probably a good thing that I had this time to just think to myself, because, and I'm sure that you're going to save this little clip and make it my ringtone or some shit.
A text message just from you.
But, husband, you were right. He just pushed the button. That wasn't me.
That's a win for husbands everywhere. A wife who admits when her man is right.
You were right.
What was I right about?
About the points that you were making about forgiving people for the person that they were, right? And self-assurance. When you were saying it on the podcast, I was like, what the fuck are you even talking about? And I was actually getting upset about it because I did not relate to any of what you were saying. I was in a younger headspace, and I didn't even realize that. I knew that I was operating from a younger headspace, but I thought that my logical side was still me, a 26-year-old. Right, but I couldn't. And that was weird to realize on that drive home that Oh, okay. So like when I'm feeling younger, like everything, including the logic side, is back in that state, which I'm not able to process things very well. It makes sense why I was feeling so emotional about everything, why it's hard to like conceptualize forgiveness and like what the bone said, it is what it is until it can be something else. Like,
and sometimes it won't be something else, but the
right.
hope,
But
the hope is what helps you accept
right.
it.
The hope is what helps me accept it. Because I like to think that people change. I like to think that people are always growing and, doing something.
Was it the last podcast that we did where I was like, there's a scary realization when you grow up to realize there's no actual grown-ups.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I think it was last episode.
Yeah, it's weird. Like,
it
you
is
think
weird.
Grown-ups have it all together and they're constantly growing and all these other adult things until you become an adult and try to grow and realize how many people you leave behind.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think as I've grown, I've tried to leave behind the parts of me that feel that way, right? Like I want to fix it. There's that part of me that just wants to like make it different. But in the acceptance, like not accepting what happened to me, but accepting that there is a me that experienced all of this and that still has strong feelings about all of this. Accepting that there is a version of
Jesus. God damn. How far back are we going?
There's a version of myself who is really hurt still,
By what?
by the experiences that she had, and that maybe that's what I accept. I just accept that I'm going to continue to have feelings about it, that there's a part of me, not all of me feels that way, but there is going to be a part of me that feels that way, and not trying to, like, I was thinking, oh, I have to accept other people's actions and forgive other people for the actions that they did to that part before that part is going to feel better. But it's like maybe that part would just feel better by being acknowledged. By being acknowledged as like a worthy person whose feelings matter, because that age of me did not feel that way with anybody. Like very, very few people did I feel like I could just be blindly accepted for exactly who I am,
Mm-hmm. Well, and depending on how far back we go, you reach into being a Mormon.
Right.
You can't be who you are in that religion.
Right. Yeah. And even just my family dynamic, I had to be who people needed me to be. Like I was the chameleon of the family. I'd do anything. I'd do whatever was needed of me in that moment.
Was it on the podcast when I pitched the idea of staying in this house long term?
No, that was in the backyard.
Okay. Yeah, when I first brought that up, you shot it down almost immediately. You were like, no, not happening. And then yesterday or the day before, you actually repeated what I had said of if there were certain circumstances to where we could live here, like with Ashley and Brent and stuff like that, you were a little more open to the idea.
Yeah.
And I think it's due to the fact that you had a little alone time on that drive and realized that you were operating in a younger headspace.
Right. Yeah, and it still kind of like pops up, but I feel like, yeah, I've been proactive enough to kind of stay in an adult headspace for since Monday. I went up there on Monday. It's Saturday now, so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the biggest realization that I had on that drive is that, like you said, self-assurance is so important. And the self-assurance I understood more on that drive because it's like, I need to assure that version of me that it's okay for her to feel the way that she feels. I need to accept that there is a version of me that feels that way, And I think the reason that I had the reaction that I did on the last podcast was because that version of me hasn't been accepted by anyone, including myself. Her thoughts, her feelings, like my parents haven't been like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry that you were like so depressed and suicidal in my household. You know, I'm sorry that I didn't see any of that stuff. Like, I haven't heard it from the people that matter, but I'm also one of those people that matter. Like, as soon as I became a quote unquote adult, a grown up, it became my responsibility to become my own parent, to be that person that's going to reassure and self-assure those younger versions of myself that, like, hey, your experience is valid. And, like, yeah, it's fucked up that those things happened, you know? It sucks that that was how it was. And I'm also so damn proud of you for all the work that you've put in to get to a different place and that you keep trying, you know? Like, that's what I need from myself. And in the headspace I was in, I couldn't see that that was an option.
Yeah.
You know? So, again, last time you're going to hear it for a while, you were right. And I actually understand now better what you were trying to say. And I'm glad that I do.
It's less important to me that I was right and more important that you understood the words.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure. But it's nice to hear
Although
that you're
I did get a little icing on my cake, so. And I get to eat it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can sum up everything, like, for me, in my childhood, what happened to me wasn't my fault. But how I dealt with it and continue to deal with it is my fault.
Right.
And if I have a negative reaction, that's my fault. If I have a
Right.
positive reaction, that's my fault.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
That's
and that's what you have control over. That's the part that you have control over.
Yeah, all the rest of it had nothing to do with me.
Right. Yeah. I've also been giving Biba some tips of how to communicate directly what she's feeling with her parents, right? Because she knows that too many words get lost in the sauce of it all. And I was listening to how she was, like, talking about things and she was taking it defensively. But it's something that she should be confident enough in herself to know, like, if you're questioning me about this, it's a you problem.
Yeah.
You know? And talking that confidence at her, I was like, do I do that? Is that something that I allow myself to be like, you know what? I'm going to stop questioning and, like, looking for reassurance about all these things about myself, because I think that's one of the reasons why I turn to other people for the validation of, like, I'm doing a good job or what I'm doing matters, or because I'm not doing that with myself. I'm not confident enough that I'm making the difference that I want, or that, like, just knowing that my intentions are good and that if somebody has a problem with it, they can come and talk to me about it. And I know that, like, where I came from was a good place, and stand in that, like, solidly reassuring myself, you know?
Yeah, I understand it.
Yeah.
I think the part you're missing, though, is a lot of people avoid conflict.
Right.
Whether it's honest conflict or not, they'd
Right.
rather have dishonest harmony.
Right. But that's not my problem.
No, it's not. And that's also why I start some of those conflicts, because I'm like,
Yeah.
look, I can't handle that, and I'm going to make it your problem.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
But again, if they have a negative reaction to it and I get no resolution, it is what it is.
It is what it is. That was their piece of the pie.
Right.
That's how they chose to deal with the situation.
I did my best to resolve the conflict, and now that I know that there's nothing else I can do, okay, cool. You're just content in your own little world. Be that way. I'm not.
The weird thing is that I'm thinking of the same people that I was thinking of last podcast, but I do feel differently about it. Like, I actually feel like it's actually your loss. You know, it's sad that we weren't able to resolve this the way that I wanted to, but it's also what it is. Like, I did the best that I could, and the ball's in your court at this point.
Yeah. And that helps with the words that you don't hear that you want to hear. If
Right.
you just accept it and realize that, yeah, I do deserve to hear that, and I'm going to tell it to myself.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not going to leave a door open for you to walk back through to say those things, because I don't even need to hear it from you anymore.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, because if they are going to say the reassuring
it would be
things
nice
that you
to
need
hear it, but I don't need it. That's what I'm trying to say. It would be nice to hear, but I don't need it anymore.
I learned that a long time ago, and that's what I was trying to say on the last podcast is I do my best, and I know that I deserve to hear certain things or be validated in certain ways, And I also know that, number one, if I have to tell someone that's what I need to hear, it's not going to be as sweet. And number two, I don't want to make it all about me.
Right.
Like, I want them to come to that conclusion on their own. And if they don't, okay.
Yeah.
Because I know that whatever I did, like example that we won't talk about right now in your case, I know what you need to hear from the particular person you need to hear it from. Likely you're not gonna.
No.
But you deserve to.
Right.
And you should just tell it yourself.
Yeah.
Tell it to yourself. Self-assurance, you know your heart was in the right place. You did a good thing. What else do you need?
Yeah, it's not my fault that you're refusing to see who I am as a person.
Right. And that's the cake that you get to eat.
Yeah.
It might not have any icing, but it's still there. It's still a delicious little cake. You just save a little slice and let it get stale and wait for the icing.
Oh, my God. I don't know what that metaphor is for. I'm lost.
The hope.
Oh.
That one last slice is the hope that you will one day get to enjoy the icing. But you don't need the icing to enjoy the cake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you baked that cake with the best intentions and you know the ingredients were right.
Yeah.
Then there's no reason for anyone else to be like, oh, your cake sucks.
Right.
Well, you weren't there. It was a labor of love.
Yeah, and if you don't like my cake, then make your own.
Make your own.
Give me some tips on how I could do it better.
Yeah.
If you're a master baker, I have something to learn from you.
Real good master baker, huh? Anyways, people criticize and criticize and criticize. It's like the number one thing that folks are good at. But if you ask them, what would make it better? Like, in your opinion, what could make this better?
Right.
They will give their 2 cents, but you can just completely ignore it.
Right.
You don't have to listen to them. They weren't there. There are circumstances that led to you doing it the way that you wanted to do it and ended up doing it. And sure, you can learn something from everyone, so hear them out. People love to talk about themselves and their ideas.
Right.
Sometimes you just learn what not to do.
Right. Well, and if someone's like, oh, this would be so much better if you just put cinnamon in it. And you're like,
taste.
Well, I actually took the cinnamon out because I'm allergic to it or whatever. Like sometimes what somebody else has to recommend.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Bahama
It's not actually going to work for you.
That cinnamon did not work in the tiger's blood. Take that out. Don't call it tiger's blood.
Don't fuck with tiger's blood, Bahama Bucks. We're coming for you. No, just JK, it's all in fun.
Yeah. But anyways, when you ask people for their input, their tone changes, and sometimes, if they are just criticizing and they don't really realize it, you'll actually hear them stutter because they don't expect people to retaliate like that. They're like, okay, what would make it better? And they're like, oh, wait.
I haven't thought about that.
You actually want my input?
Right.
Like, it's all of these people, these adults, who don't have their own validation from themselves or other people. Right. They never really grew up in that regard.
And they're just projecting it on everybody else, making it everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you can't change the world, but you can do it small scale by making folks like that realize that, yes, I am actually open to your input.
Yep.
Like, it matters. Even if I don't use all of it, I'm willing to at least hear it.
Right.
And a lot of people will respect even that because most folks don't feel like they're heard anywhere.
Right.
I mean, that's part of the reason that a lot of husbands love hearing that they're right.
Yeah.
Because they don't feel heard.
Right.
I do. I'm just joking around. You've told me that I'm right a few times, but I wanted it recorded.
Now you can go back to it.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be like, you never let me be right. And I'll be like, pull this up.
You got the
Remember
time
this
stamp
time?
written down. Yeah. Yeah.
For generations to come.
Right. But it's because a lot of people don't feel heard.
Right.
It's fun to be able to make fun of that stereotype and not actually live it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that voice inside you needs to be heard.
Yes. And held. You know. It's kind of cool. This is like a little update, but today when I've looked in the mirror, I was like, damn, who's she?
Oh yeah?
Yeah, like each time. Maybe you should just be in charge of the board from now on.
Maybe.
You got the timing good.
I did.
But it's like, it was like my automatic thought.
Good.
I'm like checking her out, like trying to look longer, not for like imperfections, but for like.
And in this house, no less.
Right.
With all the history.
Right.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I told you we were going to make this house a different energy.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Or
It's
I'll
the
rephrase, bring this
movement.
house a different energy.
The movement in here helps. There's a lot of movement. It's not going to be stagnant anymore here. Like, as long as I'm here. Yesterday, Shaylee was like, I don't really know why you're putting so much energy into a house that you're not going to stay in, right? And I was like, because the way that I act here, like I'm practicing for my own space.
Mm-hmm.
Like this says something about me as a person and how I interact with the world and the people that I love. Like this is my love language, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like caring for, like spreading, like I have the energy to do all of these things that my mom didn't have the energy to do. I'm going to pick up that slack. Like if the yard goes back to not looking awesome, it's okay. You know, because I want it to look good while I'm staying here because the place that you live in is a reflection of your insides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it controls the way that you feel on the inside.
Yeah.
If it's chaotic around here and I feel like I always have to be doing something, there's always something to be done. Like, it's stressful.
I mean, that's
home
ownership in a nutshell. There's always something to be done. You don't need to add to it.
Like, being able to have the proactivity of like actually doing the things, making a list, making it achievable, getting stuff done, like keeping that momentum going in the house, like it keeps you from falling into depression, which depression is where I was at when I was here last time.
Mm.
That's where everybody in this house was at when I was here last time. And so this is like the visual active like representation of who I want to be in the space that I reside in, you know? So it's not about other people. It's about me. You,
like other folks or other kids, including myself, I'm sure, thought at one point you could change the world. You're like, oh, I want to make the world a better place, like a lot of children do. But when you grow up, you start to realize how bleak that really is. You can't do anything. However, you can change your world small scale.
Right. The world that you live in.
Like home ownership in itself has a long list of to-dos without adding to the chaos and the depression added to the chaos of this house.
Right.
But you can undo it.
Right.
Like there's no need for it to be that chaotic.
No.
And now that you have a different energy to actually handle some things here for your mom, she's going to be less stressed. You're less stressed.
Right.
And then everyone else is happy. That's changing the world small scale. If everyone did that, we would all be a lot happier.
Right.
Like you can't change the world. You can't always be the president of the United States making all these cool laws that you think will change the world when you're a kid. Go to space. Sometimes you just can't. But what you can do is create your own little world where that might be possible. Or you do what you can inside of your sphere.
Yep.
And so like when I heard about that just now, I'm like, I'm sure she was the same way.
Right.
As a kid, she thought she could change the world, like almost every kid out there dreams of doing.
Right.
And when when a lot of people come to the realization they can't, they just get depressed and think, well, what's the point?
Right.
Which, fair enough, what is the point?
Right.
If not for anyone else, why do it for ourselves?
Yeah, if it's not going to be sustained, why do it? Because doing it,
but if you
the action of doing it, like this is me getting into a groove of being proactive.
Not only is this practice, but also it helps us exist better here.
Yeah.
It contributes to a positive
energy. And it may help my mom in the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you don't just get to have a positive energy about stuff. You have to put in some legwork.
You have to build the momentum of it. You have to make an active choice to just like do stuff.
Yeah. Like one of the one of the religious translations of what we're talking about is God helps those who help themselves. And if you believe you're the God of your own universe, like I do, I need to help myself.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And if I happen to help other people along the way, that's really cool too.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone who's willing to get on the positivity train, come on in.
Right. Literally. Yeah.
But it requires effort. You don't
does.
just get a free ride. You got to contribute to your own positivity too.
Yes. Yeah.
It is what it is until it can be something different.
Yep. I'm very hopeful about this headspace. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the moment.
Good.
I'm enjoying getting stuff done and feeling like an adult for the first time in this house.
Good.
It's really nice.
I'm glad you feel that way.
And I appreciate the part that you've played in it. All of the
Thank you,
help that you've given me. And it would be a lot heavier if you weren't here to do it all with me. So
I'm happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. You mean a lot to me.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
It also helps that this is not my mom's house. I mean, you know the energy I was in at my mom's house. It was the same thing. Like
Right.
it was heavier for me because of the history of this house and the history I have with my mom. And now I get to be on the other side where I don't have any of that history. I just get to
help.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
there's no drawbacks for me whatsoever.
It's fun that we've both kind of had the chance to do this
Yeah.
for each other's parents.
Yeah, I know. It's also weird. Like we've had to do almost the exact same thing for both of our parents.
It's almost like
Yeah.
our moms are pretty similar.
I'm really glad that those the years of unkept yard got handled by someone else here, though.
Yes. Shout out to the community here for
Did I tell you
making
that
our job a lot
Your
easier.
neighbor Mike volunteered for the day of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he volunteered
Yeah.
the yard for it.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah,
He's very sweet.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's really fun.
He'll never hear this because it has an E on it, but shout out Mike.
Shout out, Mike.
Anyway, I think this is a decent place to wrap up, but I'm just feeling full of love and light and adult energy.
I'm happy to see it.
Yeah.
Looks good on you.
Oh, thanks, dear. I think so too. Well, stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you next time.
Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.